Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning into Conversations. My guest today is Tom DeVito. He's a lifelong friend of mine, and he is, what are you, Tom? You are you're a colon hydrotherapist as far as a career goes, but you're also a raw food and plant medicine enthusiast. You're a lover of life. You're an advocate of human nature. So let's have a conversation. All right. Let's kind of start at the beginning of your journey into a health, a raw food, I guess, your approach to, I know there was a time where you ate pretty much like everybody else did, or like most people do. You ate meats and you ate pastas and I know you were brought up in a big Italian family with that whole thing, and you've had buttered bread with pasta and sauce and, the history that a lot of us have. When did a lot of this stuff kind of, start to change for you?
So when I was in my upper teens, when I started to get near 18 years of age, I started to have this weird neurological kind of twitch in my brain, which manifested into grand mal seizures. So, which means grand mal, big bad, I would fall down and convulse. And, you can't have too much of that happening in the brain.
No.
So after my second grand mal seizure, I was put on meds. And put on meds for life. Like, you have to take these to control. Because apparently seizure disorder means once you've had one seizure, now there's something equivalent to a pathway that will allow another seizure to happen. So now they consider it like you're apt to have more.
Okay.
So, they put me on these really strong drugs, Dilantin and phenobarbital. I was taking those every day, for years, 11 years. And was in a bookstore where I worked for a publishing company at the time, magazine publishing. I had a 50% discount. So I was walking down the aisles and I was like, let me read something that I'm interested in. So I bought a book on health, and it was written by MDs, like by doctors. And it was, it was an absurd book. It was like, oh, it's not junk food, it's fun food. And I was looking for something to, just because I was curious, not for any specific reason.
Yeah, you weren't looking for something radical, but you needed something radical, right?
I didn't know. I wasn't doing it, let me fix my seizures. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it like, I've always been interested in health. Let me read about that. Never thinking one had anything to do with the other. Started reading this book. I was disgusted by it. I had changed jobs from that publishing company to a different one. And in a conversation, I told someone my dissatisfaction. She brought in this book, and this is the reason all that led up to this was the book that changed everything for me.
And that book was?
Fit for Life.
Fit for Life.
By Harvey and Marilyn Diamond.
Okay.
And that book talked about something about food that I had never heard about, which was eating foods in certain combinations, which now is in a lot of different diets, but
yeah,
very much in opposition to this. But this was eat your, if you're having a protein, a piece of meat or fish or whatever, chicken, any of the meats, have it with vegetable only. And if you're eating a starch, have that with vegetable only. And don't put the protein starch together. There are some lesser,
parameters
or lesser infractions in the miscombining,
okay,
but there are some, there's a lot. You can get into all different things, even in the fruits. So eating according to food combining is supposed to be the way to go. And I just started doing it and I felt better. Digestively, I had decades long of constipation as a kid, growing up on pasta and meat and, junk food and all that.
Right.
So I became radically constipated. And then, so I started to feel better. And then something between reading that book, which had a passage that said, at some point you'll lose some weight, which I did initially, and then your body will work on healing other illnesses. So then I got the idea, I'm going to heal my seizures somehow, which, was founded in nothing. But I did then begin to lower the doses of the meds. And I took away like two. I was doing 6 pills a day. I made it lesser, 4 pills a day, taking one of each drug away.
And you were doing this without doctor supervision?
Zero.
Okay.
Yeah, I just did it completely
Great.
on my own.
Great.
Because I thought I knew everything there was to know about all the multiple fields I was now completely messing with.
Okay.
And I have zero knowledge about pharmacology or, prescription drugs. I had recreational use in the 80s.
I've known you a long time. I remember.
So I had a little bit of knowledge. These were barbiturate drugs, one of them. So I had to wean off of it. The other was like an anti-seizure. So I weaned off, and over months and months and months and months, I finally got off and stayed off, and then remained free of the meds and the seizures for 4 years. I had never gone more than 6 months, So I stayed off for 4 years. That led me to a conversation with Tommy DeSantis, who then turned me on to the next book. And that book talked about colon therapy, colon cleansing. And that's when the bell went off. And that's when I got my first colonic. And that was the second big shift.
All right.
Once I got into that, everything changed.
And that led you into pursuing an education, right? To becoming...
After a few years, I was a client for a few years. And then he suggested, the guy that was giving me the colonics suggested that he's like, oh, you ask all the right questions, whatever, have you ever thought about doing this? And I've told him this, like, as I'm getting a colonic from this guy, and we met and hit it off immediately, we became like brothers quickly. And I thought to myself, you're gross for doing this work. Like, I would never. I wouldn't, like, why?
Interesting.
No, thank you.
Right.
I didn't say it. I said, let me think about it. And I went home that night. I was married at the time to Denise, and I walked in the house and I was like, do you believe Gil is the guy's name, Gil thinks I should become a colon therapist? And she's doing whatever she's doing. And she's like, duh. And so I had to give it a little more thought. We had a conversation. And then by the end of that week, I decided to become a therapist.
I also wanted to talk to you about your plant medicine journeys and your ayahuasca experiences. There's a large acceptance these days of the benefits that have come from a lot of these, I don't like to call them experiments, more studies. Veterans, for example, who have experienced absolutely traumatic, events, their PTSD, they've been having terrific, significant breakthroughs with ayahuasca and MDMA, and I suppose DMT as well. And I mean, Mike Tyson is a big, DMT proponent, and a lot of people are. Well. When did you first have an ayahuasca experience?
Okay. 2018.
2018. And that was here in America.
That was in Brooklyn? In a yoga studio.
Okay.
These people, they would make arrangements, and, nothing was done unscrupulously. Like, it was like, this is what I'm doing. I need a space. So it was with people that he knew. But there were a few spaces that rented to him, and we would, hold the ceremonies there.
Okay, and if I was coming to my ayahuasca experience, what might I expect?
It truly is different for everyone. Some people have a visual experience along with the entire experience, like where people would call it psychedelic, but your eyes are closed and you see colorful shapes and things moving, a lot of movement. And sometimes, I mean, it's such a hard, it's like if I was attempting to describe the flavor of chocolate. Right? Like, so,
yeah.
Oh, you see things, like what things, and until you've had some kind of ayahuasca or DMT, and not all DMT is equal, but until you've had one of these experiences, it's a hard thing to convey. But you might see colorful shapes, and these things move around, and sometimes they move in a very peaceful, almost tranquil way, and sometimes they're moving a little bit more, and at some point you might become nauseated by the movement of the visual, so you might open your eyes. But it's a full consciousness experience,
Right.
not just I was seeing crazy things. Like, it's deep, deep, deep work. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, I haven't done it. I know I sometimes am compelled to try it. I have done salvia, which
I've heard about that.
which is very, very intense. It's extremely brief though.
Yeah, right.
It's maybe a minute and 30 seconds, but I smoked it.
Right.
And I had an instant disassociation from the body.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
disassociate.
And it'd be like trying to describe what a pastrami sandwich tastes like,
Yeah. Yep.
But I do.
But it's other dimensional, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do remember feeling a decidedly feminine energy kind of overriding the entire brief experience. And many people who have done salvia many times report seeing a woman, a decidedly feminine presence.
If you look at people who have created ayahuasca paintings, there's a lot of repeated imagery.
Okay.
Panthers and certain plants, and the only recurring themes for me, there's visual stuff that I've seen or places I've gone to more than once, right? When I say gone to, see, this is the difference. Salvia, you disassociate from your body. And I don't know if that means leaving your consciousness or going into your consciousness, but with ayahuasca, it's a within
It's
experience.
a within, not a without.
Yeah, you don't
Right.
leave anything. Like, I had this experience of, like, I was my consciousness observing me in my body on a daily, like who I was in my daily life. And I saw myself in my work neighborhood, which at the time was Midtown West by Penn Station, like really super busy place.
Right,
and like
right.
how disconnected from where I was in that moment, how I felt. Well, that, like, I was looking from what I felt was like almost like, I don't want to say a higher self, but like the non-physical version of me.
Okay.
Which isn't necessarily higher, I'm not saying, but I am saying, like, it was able to observe me in my daily life. And yet I felt super connected to both.
I see.
Right? Or I was both. But in life, when I'm walking around Penn Station, Madison Square Garden area, I'm doing all the normal stuff.
Right.
I have to remember to pay that bill, or, I have to go food shopping and
absorbing all the stimuli that
all the stimuli, and look at this and look at that, and why is this guy yelling into a microphone about religion?
Right.
In that area,
Right.
it's
Yeah,
insanity.
sure.
So, like, I got in touch with, in that moment, like, how unconscious I am typically on a daily basis, and how ayahuasca shows me who I am in all environments, like who I am in here. Like, no one can hear the thoughts, so the thoughts and the judgments, it's crazy. It's so much. So awareness I've gotten from this stuff is like, there's a part of you that doesn't do the judging, doesn't do the fear or whatever it is, or acting like I'm not afraid. That's a thing I've had since I'm a young kid. Like, I'm not afraid of anything. And then the 3 times I've been in the jungle, ayahuasca has been like, oh yeah, well, what do you think of this? And it gives me a little thought, and I'm like, I'm going to die. And I'm immediately into the fear. And then I'll also tell you, I have no fear of being dead, and I don't. But I do have a fear of actually dying.
Okay. We
I don't want it to hurt.
We have touched a little bit on this, and I find it fascinating. So the jungle setting, clearly you can't get more disparate than the literal jungle and the asphalt jungle. I mean, in other words, the experiences that you had in Brooklyn and around Madison Square Garden, how different is it? And are the actual mixtures of the plant medicines different?
In different traditions, they certainly are. Like they'll use different ingredients. Ayahuasca is a vine, and it contains an anti-enzymatic property that prevents the stomach from digesting the DMT, whereas effect gone. Like that's what the bufo, the toad, people smoke the toad.
Take the toad.
And that's what Tyson's experience was.
Yes.
And that's super, I haven't done that, and that's super, super powerful. And I have fear around doing that. The majority of the work I've done has been in the Peruvian tradition. I mean, overwhelming, 99.9%. The one retreat I did of 2 ceremonies with the Colombian method, I didn't align with it. It wasn't what I was used to.
Okay.
I'm used to a very specific tradition and method, and this was so different, and I found it difficult for me to really enjoy. And they gave a big serving, a bowl, and you drink the whole thing down.
Wow, okay.
Whereas the man that I worked with, for all that time, you would get a 1 ounce cup, and it would often be half that, because the stuff was made so concentrated, right? And so now
it's so stringent, right?
So now there's the ayahuasca vine, which has to be pounded until it almost breaks apart. It's like literally splintered, and it's a soft vine. And the chacruna leaf, which comes from the chacruna bush, and that is like a big, like droopy kind of leaf. So in Peru, they're about this big. In Hawaii, they're that big. So Hawaiian ayahuasca is often super strong.
Right.
And if you do it in Hawaii with all the elements, it has a certain kind of thing, which I've done. In the jungle, you have all the elements and all the energies and all the history, and you're on the soil. I mean, you're not sitting in the dirt, but you're in the environment where this plant originated, which is the Peruvian Amazon jungle.
Right.
And I've always had a facility, luckily, when I do it, that I know what's going on. There's not a loss of control, but some people can get taken for a little while where
I've heard
they go into an experience, and
I've heard some bad experience. People, have had some rough experiences, but that's kind of inherent in anything that's going to take you out of
change your consciousness. I mean, look, that's why I say it's not for everyone.
Right.
And for people who use medications, they have to be really honest, because there are great dangers. Certain psych drugs could be lethal, like the combination, because they're in the same part of the brain. So you have to be really honest in those intake forms and stuff like that. Like the man that I trained with, and I never was training to do what he did, but like I considered it training because I was learning about the medicine. So that was training. And when I worked with him, he would want to know about your history. And then if a person came with a certain background, he would be like, let's start you off like very, very little and ease you in. He wasn't into, here's a giant dose, good luck.
Right.
He was not interested in that, because
well, what would that serve, right?
If you get blown out of your mind where you can't think straight, you wind up not getting anything out of the work. I've had some lame ayahuasca experiences, and I've never walked away once regretting it, or never once like, I didn't get anything out of last night. Even if I sat there frustrated the whole night, I'd be like, look at you. Always frustrated. Always dissatisfied with something, and then I walk away going, oh yeah, that's me, and that's all ayahuasca is, by the way. It doesn't fix or erase or cure anything for anyone. It just shows you. More than anything, it's like, well, have you thought about this aspect of your life? Maybe you should put some attention on that, or like, this bothers you all the time. Why not,
To kind of ask a little deeper question along this line, is consciousness in the mind?
It's not. No.
Okay.
Consciousness is the source of everything. Everything. Nothing in our experience is not consciousness. Physical life connects to consciousness, like not the other way. It's not like we came here and then we developed consciousness. It's completely the other way around. Consciousness has always been and will always be. That's how I see it. And we are eternal. This is the brief,
Yeah, for sure.
we leave home,
For sure.
we come here, we go away to school,
Yeah.
learn a bunch of lessons, hopefully, and then go back home.
Right.
And then do that until we don't have to go to school anymore.
So if we are energy and energy can't be created or destroyed, we transform. Right.
They say in a lot of this spiritual writing, they say that, consciousness was in a sleep or dream state for whatever, and that at some point it awakened from the dream and started to create. And, it's looked upon as a concentration of highly evolved consciousness, energy. And that's what certain spiritual practices refer to as God, without making it holy or the almighty.
Yeah. So it awakens to the dream of its own magnificence, in a sense, right? And we kind of come along with it.
Okay, magnificence. I wasn't prepared for that level of dramatic. But yeah. I mean, is consciousness male and female, or is it both? And then if it's both, we just take an identity and a personality in a lifetime, but then in another one, and to be fully evolved consciousness wise, so that we can progress on to other, because we're supposed to be multidimensional, eternal beings.
Sure.
So we exist in multiple dimensions at once.
Do you think we chose the human experience?
Absolutely, unequivocally. We are in the reincarnational cycle, and if you look at it, reincarnation is like the dying off and the rebirthing, right? So we reincarnate physically throughout our lives constantly. Like the cells that were our bodies at 10 years of age are not the cells right now.
Every 7 years, supposedly.
Yeah, right. So it's not a far out idea to think like that there's an eternal aspect to this, and that life is the temporary thing. And people say, hey, death is a part of life. I'm like, life is a part of death. Like, we're there. If we only live once, we're dead way longer than we're alive.
Yeah, so, for sure. So let's kind of stay on that. Is death a transition?
Well, I mean, I don't think that's a question.
Meaning,
it's a transition.
Can ayahuasca and DMT help you recognize that transition?
The first experience I had, I literally felt like, because everyone talks about the beautiful visuals, I had the ugliest brown visuals. Like literally, it looked like guts and shit, and it was just gross.
Okay.
And I've learned that sometimes, like, we would do 3 ceremony retreats: a Friday, a Saturday nights, Friday and Saturday nights, and then Sunday morning-ish. Right. And like, it was this really great cadence, the way the whole thing would flow. But anyway, often the Friday night, you get the clearing. You clear the energetic clutter that's in the mind. You clear the bad energy of the week or the month or the year or whatever. And then the next night, you go really deep. And then the third day, because you did it the night before, you wake up the next morning, and Victor, who was my teacher, who's now gone, he passed, would say, ayahuasca cappuccino.
Okay.
Because you do it the night before, you wake up the next morning, it's still in your blood. It's there for days after.
Sure.
So when you do it in the morning, you go super deep, but somehow as the experience comes to a close, there's a like an integration of the 3 experiences that kind of ties everything together.
Okay. Is it a similar scenario in the jungle as well? You do like a 3-day?
It could be 3, 5, 4, 10.
I see. Okay.
like the most I ever did was 4 ceremonies in a retreat, and that was the last time I went to the jungle. And it was for something called the dieta. Dieta, like diet, right? So you do a diet of plants. So that could be anywhere from 2 to multiple plants that you would do in a regimen that's meant to bring you from A to B or A to Z. So you do ayahuasca at night, and I've never done ayahuasca during the day in the jungle, only at night for some reason. But there are tribes that would do it and then lay in a hammock during the day, and that would be their...
That's...
wow. But, yeah. So, anyway, the dieta, we did this other plant called Ushpawasha Sanango.
God bless you.
Like, yeah, right? Sounds like it gives you the craziest experience, but there's no psychotropic effect from it other than a feeling of drowsiness. And then you drink it at like 6 a.m. in the morning after having done ayahuasca the night before. And then you drink it at 6 a.m. and then you go back to sleep and you have these truly bizarre dreams. And I think
wow. Do you remember the dreams?
I remember some of them.
Some of them?
But there's a lot of dreaming that happens we were there for 6 days, a lot of dreaming. So, like any dreams, you forget them upon awakening. But the interesting thing about that was Ushpa is light, Washa is dark, and Sanango is healer. So healer of light and dark,
Healer
I guess.
of light and dark.
So kind of like bringing you into a center, so to speak. Take away too much of the enthusiasm, maybe. I don't know. But definitely, or maybe healer of the light and dark means by healing the dark, you get more light. But anyway, doing those 2 plants together was pretty transformational.
I'm sure it sounds, it sounds wonderful and dramatic, and it sounds like a spectrum of being human, right? As far as emotions, maybe emotions you never felt before or didn't know you could feel.
And it really depends on some medicine is a bit aggressive and some is super peaceful and loving. Victor would say that the Hawaiian medicine, the Hawaiian ayahuasca, it has a more aloha feel to it. Whereas jungle medicine is often whereas Hawaiian medicine, if you were going to verbalize how it behaves, it's like, hey, this is going on. Maybe you want to take a look at this.
I can understand that.
Jungle medicine is like, have you forgotten this?
Okay.
Get to work.
Yeah.
In a way, you know. But no, I mean, look, I had one of the most loving experiences I've ever had in the jungle. Like I felt like I was in a place that was like the only thing I felt was love. I don't know. And look, like me.
I do.
For a very long time. You've seen me like literally pick something up and break it into a million pieces. I'm not trying to act like I'm some kind of, but like in that moment I was like, wow, like that's what this is. This is like pure love.
Okay, and is that, in that state, this is why we're here?
I've never had a single experience with ayahuasca that ultimately, at the end of that specific experience, wasn't a either reminder or a literal pounding into my being that love is everything. Everything is love. Everyone is love. The word God, without religious connotation, is love. Consciousness is love. Love is consciousness.
Yeah.
Like it's
the only
God
thing that
love.
has any real meaning.
Right. God is consciousness. Consciousness is God. And then the idea of one, meaning one consciousness, and all the things in our experience, like all the really beautiful things we experience, all the boring things and all the crazy, ugly, dark, violent things like we see in the world or experience ourselves or whatever, is all a part of that consciousness. I think I've taken on this idea, I probably read it, but like that life is like being in a play. And when the play's over, you go backstage. So when you die, you go backstage and it's like, hey, how did that scene work? Oh, that second half was really good. The second act, whatever, And we review, and then we decide what play do we want to be in next time.
What makes us human? I mean,
what makes us human?
Is it blood, flesh, bone, consciousness, love, or it's all of those things, okay. I suppose, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think people talk about like the spirit is higher than the physical, and the physical is like in the low realms and whatever. And
like this is something we just walk around in a sense, right?
Yeah, like the shell or whatever. But I think where consciousness meets physical life is where a human is, right?
Okay.
But I'll say that what the plants, or at least ayahuasca primarily, has done is given me the ability to chuckle after I make the judgment, not walk away believing I'm right.
Yeah. That is growth.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, you're also an artist. That also comes into play. You're a very dedicated musician. Drumming is your main thing. Maybe we've talked about that.
We might have done 6 hours on that topic.
Yeah. I guess as far as the ayahuasca experience or the tapping into a different consciousness, how is that related to creativity, do you think?
Everything's a tool.
Okay.
I think everything is a tool, right? And perhaps, look, when it comes to altering one's state of mind, right, or consciousness, like LSD changes a person's reality.
Very much so.
Not just like, oh, I have a new perspective on this. It's like, you're seeing things that are not there in normal life or whatever, right?
Without question.
So it opens up a certain channel in the mind, let's say, or several channels. DMT, which by the way is from the chacruna leaf, not from actual ayahuasca.
Right.
DMT or 5-MeO DMT, which is the toad, these properties there's a natural connection to us. Like who thought one day that vine there that's twisting with another vine needs to be cut down and beaten and then boiled with these leaves, like
right.
That came from a dream.
That came from a dream, or right? Where did it come from?
But it's almost as if you go back to the idea that we're eternal and consciousness, there's awareness and consciousness, and our personality still exist outside of physical life. And if that's the case, then maybe it's someone going, get that guy and get him to understand he has to get that vine and that thing. And, it's like, some of the things we've discovered, including antibiotics in the wild, like we discovered that how? Oh, I think this has properties that so-and-so needs to fight that mystery infection. Like, no, it all comes from something. And I do believe that our dreaming is not only where we learn, but we also plan our actual daily existence when we're dreaming. And the dreams are symbolic, but they're not like, oh, I dreamt of dark water, that means trouble's coming. But I do think the symbolism is because we dream in a different dimension than regular life. So sometimes the interpretation, it's not meant to be taken literally, but I do believe that there's things going on. That's, if you drink alcohol, not drink. If you smoke pot, weed, don't smoke. Like, let the ayahuasca finish its job.
Well, also in preparation as well, right? Before you do it, you should probably detox in a sense, right?
You definitely don't go into it drinking. You don't go into it smoking. Cigarettes is different. Like,
but you probably want to quell that too.
Tobacco in the jungle is used a lot in a lot of ways, in some very risky ways. But tobacco, ceremonial tobacco is used.
It's all throughout history. Yeah, all throughout history.
We've just taken tobacco and made it into a nightmare, especially in this country.
If you were viewing human beings, or if you were viewing from an alien, from an alien planet, if you were viewing us, human beings, and you were telling somebody else about us, the thing is, they keep making better shit.
The invention of the internet was a blessing and a curse, because then I think social media is one of the main downfalls of society.
I can absolutely support that assessment, but I also think it's had some pretty good things to it too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can order something and literally have it delivered in the same day sometimes. Like, there's a great convenience, and there was a great access to knowledge until that became, put at risk. And then open sourcing allows people to do what they want. And, you got that from Wikipedia. Well, we know that's bullshit because it's Wikipedia.
Right,
but
right.
Maybe not, and the thing is that, to me, I believe that, like, here we are talking, right? We have microphones, screens, lights,
a producer,
studio, a producer, Kimbra, and we have all this great stuff here, right? But we are designed, like, I see this species, and it's just my silly opinion, but I see this species as, we were never meant to be 100% indoors and live under electric lights and not be in the jungle and not be near a beach or in the mountains. Like, I know they say we originated in sub-Saharan Africa and then made our way out, right? But I think we were like every single other creature on the planet, we were meant to be in nature. We act like we visit nature when we go on a hike. We're visiting nature. You are nature.
You are nature.
There's no separation, right? And that's why, and I based that concept, like that idea, everything else is based on that in my life. Like, that's where the diet thing comes in. Like, what other animal is taking food and putting it on a grill? Not a single creature, unless they're domesticated and being fed by us, gets a cooked food or a processed food at all. So to me, that's where it kind of ties in. What is the nature of things? And yeah, we progress, we evolve. So we've evolved into these things that we are now.
Right.
And I say things, we're still human beings, right? But soon we're going to be part robot. They're going to figure it out.
Cyber, part, yes.
Yeah, and,
I believe that too.
Yeah.
I believe that's where we're going.
Yeah. And, I don't know how utopian that's going to be. It's really precious to be in human life. It's really amazing.
Absolutely. It's a
gift.
miracle.
It's a true gift and a miracle. But I don't believe being here is any more special than being there.
Okay.
In fact, I might even argue that being there, and I've never thought, because I would say, oh, religion makes you want to be dead. Like, that's where the good stuff is. And now I think I understand it a little bit differently. Like, I think our consciousness is not limited by three-dimensional life. It's less limited there than it is here, I think. And I could be dead wrong. But like that second...
You could be, but maybe not.
We went off on a tangent. That second ceremony I did in Brooklyn, after going through the guts that I felt like I saw the first time.
Oh, the brown, the ugliness.
I mean, literally was looking at a flat wall that looked like brown clay. And like, it literally like shit came out of the wall.
Okay.
And I was just like laughing to myself because it's like, who gets that visual? Like, that's the one I get because I'm the colon therapist. So I was just like, everyone talks about, oh, I see angels. And I'm like, where's my angels? Like, where's my unicorn? And the funny thing is that next week, I'm sitting in the room and I'm eyes open, looking up. The ceilings that were maybe a little bit higher than this in reality seemed to be cathedral height, like much taller.
Okay.
Right? And I was like, wow. And I had this like wow feeling, like really profound wow, like holy cow. Like I saw these light neon aqua green figures floating up in the ceiling. I could see the room. I could see I was in a room, and I knew where I was, but I was seeing these things. And if I closed my eyes, that's what the visual was. But with my eyes open, they were more like outlines, almost like fine line tattoo designs, amoeba type looking things floating around.
So they were there.
No, they weren't there. They were in my visual, or they were
but
there.
in that
yeah,
state,
right. And I thought, oh, those are angels joking around with myself, because I don't believe in angels. But I was like, oh, those are the angels. And then I thought, this feeling right now, if there's any truth to an afterlife or a so-called heaven, this is, I think, what it feels like. This is what it might feel like. And in that moment, I had the thought of like, I may have been wrong about a thing or two.
I love having those moments.
Yeah.
I love having those moments.
Yeah, it was humbling, of course. And I, at that point, like let go of the atheist, meaning I don't believe in a God, which is the taken terminology or meaning. And I also, my dad and I would agree on nihilism, as in there's nothing when you die, right? And one time I said, so then you just exist in nothing and you're aware of that existence in nothing? He said, yeah. I said, well, then there's something. You can't be aware of nothing. So we would go back and forth on this argument once I had that experience. But that's the thing that created this, like, opened me up to that belief of like, there's more to this than just you live, you die. I used to say, we're an outgrowth of bacteria. That's it.
Yeah. I know. I there was a time where I used to read, his name was UG, the initials UG. And he was, there's a book called Disquieting Conversations with a man called UG, and he was, we are pieces of shit. We are, that was like his thing, God. But at the same time, there was also something enriching. You'd have to read his stuff. I know I'm not really doing it much justice. You would feel unease as you were reading these things that he was saying, because is this true? Is what he's saying about us true? And is that why it's making me so uncomfortable to read it? And why can't I stop reading it? But
because we all have a sense of self-loathing.
We all have a sense of self-loathing for sure. We hate ourselves to a degree, but again, I think that's all part of the consciousness too, right?
Well, yeah, but you know what the overriding message is from ayahuasca is love yourself.
Love yourself.
Love yourself. Like literally, and sometimes like you almost hear, it's a thought, but it's not a thought like you normally have a thought. It's almost an audible thought sometimes, right? Like, so I was sitting, it was a daytime ceremony. We were in this big, beautiful house, sitting around, and it was a vibe. Like, it was a really great feeling. And I was like sitting there thinking about who I was in the regular daily experience. And then like thinking about like, okay, I have this negative attitude a lot, or I have anger and frustration, and I express it outwardly, and I'm bringing poison into my environment. And when I get angry in front of others, I'm poisoning their environment. And then it just kept unraveling and unraveling until finally it's almost like this voice or thought form comes into my head, which is like, just love yourself.
And what does that mean, right? What does it mean to love yourself?
Well, I think it means to accept, right? Like, just accept, like, love all of me. So, the things that I would judge, love instead of judge.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
So
Yeah.
love yourself. And then the next thought is everything is love. Your love, the universe is love.
Mm-hmm.
Then love is the answer came into my head. And then that song now is in my head.
Sure.
And now-
Shine on us all, set us
now-
free. Love is the answer.
So now like there's this like really beautiful, positive feeling, right? And then the question is, why can't you love yourself? And then the next thought is, if something like I do, so why can't you? Something along those lines. It's been a few years, so I can't fully remember. I remembered it like, but anyway, I'm telling you that because I think what that was that consciousness that was observing me in the daily life, or what they call a higher self or soul, was basically the one that was supplying those thoughts, which is me. And again, I could be wrong about every single thing I've said so far because it's just my take on it. Like that guy, we're all pieces of shit.
UG.
That's his, UG, that's his perspective on things. Is it true? Well, for him it is.
For him it was. Yeah, he's no longer here, but for him it was. But eventually you find your truths, and the things that work.
Right.
And if you do work either through ayahuasca or meditation or yoga, if you do real work, you kind of can filter out the bullshit, the stuff that you realize, hey, you know what? I've been wrong.
Yeah.
I've been wrong.
It definitely helps. It helped me a lot with like the idea of letting go. Like I don't have to be right. I don't have to be heard. Like social media initially, I have an opinion. Let me post this opinion. Like the only thing I comment on is happy birthday, happy anniversary.
Yeah.
So sorry for your loss. Like that's it. Like, people that I know and care about, but I won't make a comment like, well, I disagree with that political or religious or, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Zero interest. And the reason is I don't want to invite the drama or the conflict. And again, this doesn't, I'm not saying that because I'm evolved or whatever, but I just got that that's not serving me. That like I'm not getting anything good at it. In fact, interacting on social media is almost entirely negative.
No, I understand that. And I'm like you. I don't interact much either. Somebody who I really like, Joe Rogan, I'm a big fan of his podcast, and he's always talking about don't read comments at all. Don't read the negative, don't read the positive, just don't read the comments at all because they have no bearing on what you're doing.
The comments, the reason I don't read the comments is because I really would rather not see the absolute lowest mentality of humanity, because that's really what it is.
Yeah, the haters,
oh my God,
it's
awful.
It is.
Awful.
It is. It is.
But,
and it's not gonna enrich anything. It's not gonna enrich anything at all.
No, listen, here's where we are in society that I've witnessed. This is what I believe. There was at some point a campaign that was online that went around that was a dress. What color do you see this dress as? People were like blue with gold stripes. Others were like gold with blue stripes. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's
nobody's right and nobody's wrong, right? Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see brown. I see yellow, whatever. And the division that caused, like the level of divisiveness in that kind of post permeated our culture so quickly that, like, because literally people would be like, you have to be a real special kind of moron to believe that thing is blue with gold. And I'm just like, wow. And now everything is that way. It's like,
infected.
I use the iPhone. Well, you're a special kind of idiot. And it's just like, Jesus. I mean, like, it's insane.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's the worst thing about social media is, keyboard muscles or whatever you call it, right? Like, coupled with people at home drinking alone, like it gets ugly.
Isolationism, yeah.
A word on alcohol. I think it's such an accepted thing that we do, and I don't think people realize like
how damaging.
It poisons every aspect of humanity, like from the psychology to the mental clarity state, right, to the emotional level, the physical
level.
It poisoned really bad. And I think energetically, consciousness wise, we poison everything about us. It's very low energy.
Yeah.
And I think that social media and alcohol is like
a lethal combination.
It really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny because my teacher in ayahuasca, Victor, and my teacher Gil in colonics had similar attitudes about if people just would love themselves, the world would be better. And Gil said after 9/11, which was an interesting thing to say, and not everyone would take what he said in the right way, but he believed that when we cleanse the colon and we take the physical pollution out of the body, right, like that's locked into the intestines, right, like there's this thing, the Greek medicine, which originated medicine in
Hippocrates.
Yeah. My teacher Gil would say that this is a Hippocrates quote, but I never was able to prove that it is in fact from him. But take care of the organs below the belly button, and the organs above take care of themselves. And he said after 9/11, if everybody, and he has this really high-pitched voice and this thick New York accent, but he's absolutely brilliant. And he would say, if everybody did colonics, nobody would be flying planes into buildings. And, when you boil that down, it's like if you loved yourself enough. To get your, because the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the psychological, the emotional are all tied together. So if you make a shift in one of those planes, I think the other planes shift as well, which is how the colonics and the plant medicine kind of work together.
Yeah.
Cleansing the body affects consciousness. How consciousness works affects the physical body. Like, get rid of the bad energy, and now the body's operating better. And how spiritual study, can work in both of those areas as well. So they all kind of tie together.
Yeah. I mean, it's all a collective, I think. As a parent, any of your experiences with ayahuasca, any, I guess, enlightening moments of, this is what I need to teach my children?
I've gotten in touch with, I hope I haven't screwed them up. I hope.
Well, we all,
I hope they have rich and fulfilling lives. And I really feel like they're like the greatest gift I was given in this lifetime, Yeah. And yet, I'm not an obsessive parent. So I don't I think that's unfair when parents become obsessive about their kids. They don't let their kids actually live.
Yeah.
So, I accept who they are. Neither of them are vegan, but if they ask my opinion about health, I give it to them.
Sure.
But I don't impose anything on them. The one thing I kind of became pretty strong about was alcohol, and I was using it on and off over the years.
I remember.
I mean, I quit when I first got into the health gig, then it crept back in, and then I had an epiphany at an ayahuasca ceremony about it, and then pulled myself off and will not return in this lifetime. There was an interesting, I saw a thing on the topic of alcohol, which said most murders, like the upper 90% of murders committed, like premeditated murders are committed, the person has to have alcohol before they go and commit the murder. So all these things made me just decide I've done enough damage with that.
Yeah, well, I could definitely understand, coming to a realization, especially after, the experiences that you had,
And then telling myself, oh, I don't do chemicals. I don't take any pills of any kind, not even Tylenol, for 34 years. No drugs,
Right.
except for the,
Right.
whatever. But the funny thing is that, like, what the hell am I considering alcohol? What's that? An apple? No.
It's
a
not
poisonous-
organic. It's not,
well, it can be organic wine, right? You can get, I guess, organic vodka in the sense.
yeah, but
that,
it doesn't grow in the ground like marijuana,
well,
for example.
it's not naturally occurring,
Right.
which is the concept of food and non-food, or what most people call processed
Processed food. Right.
or junk food.
Yeah.
I say non-food.
Ew.
Today it's hard because there's, schmucks like me online saying, oh, vegan, and whatever. And then there's other people online saying, all they eat is red meat and sticks of butter. And they're eating it,
Meat and eggs. That's another.
meat and eggs or meat and butter or only protein. And look, there's a lot to discuss about that and what we are designed as. When you compare us physiologically and anatomically to all other creatures on the planet, there is zero evidence that we are carnivorous.
Yeah. So did we start hunting meat out of necessity for
I think we did. But the earliest
or fishing, right? Probably fishing might have been even before hunting.
No. Fish were the last animal.
Oh, okay.
Because, think about the
Okay.
skill it took to figure out how to get the fish out of the water. It took us longer to
suppose.
figure out fish than it did land
Trapping and
animals.
hunting animals. Okay.
But we were fruitarian for about 1% of the time we're here. We were pure fruitarian initially. And if you look at the way the organs are set up, it's primarily we're set up for at least that and green leaves and, little else. And in the beginning, leaves, berries, fruits, seeds, some nuts. And then very early on, we started taking on animal. But that was, we weren't taking an animal and cutting it up and putting it on a grill. We were skinning the animal and eating the animal.
Right.
So
Right.
cooking came
That
later.
came later on too. Right. Right.
So, so to me, I look at not that you asked, but the primary foods that humans should eat should be the ones that can be eaten raw. And now I'm a hardcore vegan, right? But fruits, leafy greens, other vegetables, seeds, some nuts, berries, things like that can be eaten raw, right? So can meat. So in a way, that's a primary human food if you choose to go that route. Right? But we cook the meat, and for good reason and whatever. But to me, if you can get a super clean, like when we do clean sushi or sashimi, that's the best way to eat that food because you get it not denatured. You're not cooking the benefit out of it. Right. So the second category, secondary food for humans, primary and secondary. Secondary is the things you have to either cook or soak. So legumes have to be soaked or cooked. Grains have to be soaked or cooked. All the tubers and the potato-y, squashy stuff all has to be cooked. Mm-hmm. So all that stuff is secondary human food. And the third category is non-food. And non-food is a little bit of this, a handful of that, a little bit of water, put it in the oven, it's bread.
I see. Okay.
So the things we assemble and give a name to, bread and cheese, are at the tops of the processed food lists. So those foods and everything thereafter is not food. It's shit that we created.
Right.
And all I'm saying is put your focus on category one, on the primary foods, and then the secondary category accompanies the first category, and have that third category as little as possible. And if you can avoid bread and cheese in one sitting, you'll be better off.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah. So that really, earlier in the conversation, you mentioned you have sort of your own philosophy.
That's the only thing.
That ties into what you were referring to earlier.
Those three categories I just mentioned is literally the only thing that I could say I thought of. Everything else was read and then conceptualized through other people's work.
Okay.
The people I've read the most of is Professor Arnold Ehret. When I say read the most, he wrote 2 books that mattered, and then some pamphlets. I've read all his work, but the 2 books I've read multiple times each because they're that valuable. And then Dr. Norman Walker, he wrote a handful of books, maybe 6 books, and he's another one that I'm a big fan. You know, so the point of it is that natural whole foods, naturally occurring whole foods work better with the nature
the
that we are.
natural occurring body. Right.
Then, you know, stuff that the human body at its, let's say, inception, even though I know it comes from, you got to go pretty far back. I mean, down to Australopithecus, Lucy, and
Homo
all that.
sapien,
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the development of that species came from whole foods only. You know, zoo animals only outlive wild animals because they're not being hunted or being attacked by another opposing whatever. But like, yeah, you know, domestic animals don't live as long as wild animals because they're eating food that we've made for them.
Oh, I was once I had a pet. I had a pet food supplement business because pet foods, the nutrition is so bad.
Yeah, no, it's,
and
this is, in my opinion, where cancers and things like this come from,
without question.
Now, there's of course, and scientists would knock me, out of the room with actual science about illness, but I believe that the misunderstanding about illness is that we are like something happens to us, as opposed to I live in a way that might express
manifest
what genetically is not great in me. Like for me, it was a neurological disorder, right? And then once I did some things that changed my physical state or changed the quality of my blood, right? This is what colonics do. You clear out the solid and the gaseous waste, and now you have less stuff trying to be cleansed out through the bloodstream.
Sure.
And then the bloodstream becomes cleaner. The tissue of the body becomes less polluted. And eventually you get down to the cellular level where the cells hold on to less waste. And that's how the body rejuvenates itself.
And runs much more efficiently.
Yeah. I mean, Professor Arnold Ehret had this formula that he called the formula for life, but it can also be the formula of death, which is V as in vitality equals P, power, minus O, obstruction. V equals P minus O. Vitality equals power minus obstruction. Like a car engine. If the oil isn't changed, you get the residue, and then the friction kills the engine.
Yep.
So when I went off the diet, like remained vegan, but ate all the heavier foods and put on the weight, I started having skin conditions. I started having headaches and dizzy spells.
So there it was.
And then I felt my age again, or felt my age for the first time in decades, because I don't necessarily feel like I'm nearing, retirement age.
Right.
I feel pretty healthy and youthful. And coming from the standard American approach or the standard American diet, which was like for me, burgers, fries, pizza, donuts, bagels.
It's how we grew up.
Macaroni and cheese and all that kind of stuff. I've lived that way. I was sick. I was medicated. I was supposed to live the rest of my life sick and medicated. And by now, that neurological disorder could have progressed into like MS or something else.
Yeah. Or you might not even be here anymore.
Or I might not be here. Living this way and then getting into the plant medicine, like the plant medicine worked well for me because I wasn't cluttered with all this stuff. And
so it all seems part of a design.
It does. It seems to be all these elements of the fabric.
Well, Tom, I think we've hit on quite a lot and a lot to think about. I certainly hope that your experiences and what you've educated yourself into and what you try to educate other people into, I hope it has more of an outreach. I know you've done some Instagram posts about the green juicing and
the importance of juicing can't be overstated.
Okay.
But I thought you were asking about that. I'm still making the videos, and one of the major thrusts of this work is drinking vegetable juice.
And leafy green salads, right? The greener the better.
I have a mountain of green leafy stuff at home that I will be devouring very soon.
Yeah. I'm a fan too. For sure.
To me, that's our natural food. I mean, my day consists of vegetable juice, sometimes fruit, often fruit, especially in the summer months because I love those fruits.
Sure.
And green leafy vegetables.
So where can people watch your stuff? What's your Instagram?
Instagram is Tommy D. Colonics.
Okay.
I think there are the underscores between the Tommy D. Colonics. Same thing on TikTok. Those are the two places. I'm also going to be doing some stuff so the new place I'm working, I'm renting out of a place called Gravity East Village. And Gil is on that block. So Gil, Donna Peroni, the owner of Gravity, where I'm renting from, and myself, Tommy D. Colonics, we're going to get together and do some videos. I might put them on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, and put clips out on those platforms.
Great. Yeah. Great. Well, what can I say, my brother? I'm very, very grateful to you.
Likewise.
For lending your time. I love you very much.
Love you too, brother.
And
thanks for
everybody.
Having me.
Oh, absolutely, my man. Absolutely. Thanks again, everybody. All the best. Be well.